I'm just speaking what I'm doing now because I don't know what else to say, so I'm just starting the talking engine. And then I'm thinking that maybe if I get it going, then I'll start to find something that I actually think is worth talking about. I'm going to clean my feet because they're full of sand and wood chips and other types of dirt from being in the dirt. So I got another light now. It's fucking blinding, man. I needed another light because the other night when I did this, I had this light here, and you could only see half of my face. Yo, 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 row, row, row your fucking boat, Mike. So, I'm going to keep the talking machine going. I'm searching for motivation. I'm waiting for something to inspire me, to share, to create. I want to do this. I want to speak to a camera and make videos only because I want to speak to real people. And I do in my everyday life. But I want to broaden that. I want to expand my network. This higher state of consciousness that I often find myself in. That is who I see my true self to be. All this, the words I speak, the way I say them, my mannerisms, my actions, my habits, those are all temporary. Those are all changing all the time to reflect my true self. What do I mean by my true self? When I felt the first time the totality of my true self, when I fully realized it, and I seen it, and I knew it, and the feeling of being it was throughout my whole existence, throughout my entire body, throughout my entire mind, it was evident to me, and it was true to me, and it was real to me that that is who I am. But it was also evident to me that that is who everyone is. We are the same in the sense that we all want joy and happiness and love and connection, and we all want to stay away, or we all don't want fear, regret, anger, resentment. And then when I say that, I know there's contradictions to that. I know that we can be in states of being where we really like being angry, where we want to be angry, where we want to be resentful, where we want to be fearful. But that desire to be that way isn't our true self, isn't a reflection of what we truly are. It's just a misguided expression of truly searching for what we really want. For an example, I used to enjoy anger. I enjoy expressing my anger. I enjoyed blaming. Enjoy is not even the right word. It just, because it wasn't like it made me happy, but it gave me a feeling that I gravitated towards. It gave me a feeling that I continued to go back to. When I put myself in a position where I was resentful towards someone, I guess in a sense it's kind of a relief, because it's like a lifting of the blame from myself and putting it to someone else. I think that's where the good feeling comes from, in anger and resentment. And when I chose anger over sadness per se, that was a more palatable emotion. I didn't want sadness. Sadness made me feel weak, whereas anger made me feel strong, or at least made me think I was feeling strong. It made me feel stronger than when I felt sad. So if I felt sadness, if I felt disappointment, I would turn it into anger and direct it at someone. And then I would dismiss that person and just tell myself and believe that that person was just less than me, that I was better than them in some way, and that they need to change, not me. I had an attachment to a lot of different emotions. Anger being one of them, but for me, a lot of the time I would suppress my anger. I wasn't one to express my anger. Very rarely, at least. Something gnawed at me for a while, I would eventually flip, but not in rage. It would be more of a calculated attack, calculated verbal attack with reason, to say to someone, this is how you've wronged me, and I would explain in detail as to how. When I speak about this, I'm holding a particular memory in my mind. A friend of mine, when we lived together, this friend would always, would never really respect my desire to sleep. And that used to anger me a lot, because not only was I a very lazy person and really valued my sleep, but there were many occasions where, I would have to work the next day and I needed proper sleep. And this friend would have friends over and party and drink and make noise. And this friend was really respectful in every single other way. But when it came to that kind of thing, this friend would prioritize his or her own joy over my sleep. And I think the reason why this memory comes to mind is because there was a time where I felt really wronged by this friend. And I spoke to that person and I said, I just remember saying, you have no respect for me. You have no respect for me at all, because you're showing that you do not care about what I need. And I can recall that, I'm just going to start using he. I don't want to say his name, but this friend all the time is not going to work. So I recall that he was kind of taken aback. He was kind of surprised by this. I don't recall exactly how he responded, but I can remember being really angry. And I guess that anger stemmed from different things. That I wasn't getting what I wanted, because what I wanted was peace and quiet during the night, and I wanted someone who respected that. So I had a desire, and it wasn't being met, and I blamed someone else for that. Even though I created the situation, I chose to live with friends. I chose to live with that friend in particular, knowing his full capacity to do something like that. I also chose not to sit down with this friend and seriously explain myself without getting angry. I chose to make all that. And yet I still wanted someone else to live their life to fit what I want. That's where the anger came from. I felt like I deserved to be treated a certain way. And I'm not saying whether or not I do deserve or don't deserve. This is discouraging. Right now, in this moment, I felt discouragement. Because I anticipated this for a long time. I anticipated that I would eventually come to create video content. And when I imagined how it would go, I see myself being much more productive with it. Being able to explain myself better. Being able to speak thoroughly and specifically about a certain subject and explain well what it was, what I seen in my mind. There's no reason to be discouraged. Everything takes practice. Remember that, Mike. This is where you are now. And the reason why I get discouraged is because I have a desire. I have a desire to make this my living. Not because I want to do this for a living, but because I don't want to do anything else. I don't want to work for an industry I don't believe in, or for an industry that I think should be phased out of existence. I don't even want to support a monetary system, because I know that we can easily support everyone in the world without a monetary system. So if I have desires, it's to move towards that. So this is my way of contributing towards that. One of the ways. I want to share knowledge and understanding so other people can let go of their fears and desires. And if other people can let go of their fears and desires, then we can begin to really create communities. And not begin, because they're already happening all over the place. They're springing up everywhere all the time. But we can create a world where everyone is free. And not free in the sense that you can choose what street you live on or what color car you have, but free in the sense that you don't have to do anything you don't want to do. That's like the conservative, Republican, capitalist mentality's like worst nightmare. That mentality, the hippie mentality that we're free to do whatever the fuck we want, because you can't enslave people like that. And I understand where they're coming from, because I used to see it similarly. I used to think that people weren't motivated by money or something like that, then they wouldn't do anything and nothing would get done. But when we're free and we're well, you know, when we're not living in fear and we're not living in pain, we don't necessarily feel okay doing nothing. Like, I can only speak for myself. I like doing nothing only because I have to do things. I only like doing nothing as a relief from doing the things I don't want to do. So when I do a full day of things I don't want to do, then nothing is really appealing to me. Doing absolutely nothing, lying down, just listening to music, something as simple as that, is very appealing to me. But when I'm free, when I'm not obligated to spend an entire day doing something I don't want to do, then I'm filled with ideas and inspirations for what I could or should be doing. And I think we're all the same way. I think most people are motivated by money because they're fearful of what would happen if they didn't have money. And I think all people want to do good, want to do well, want to spread love, want to be loved. And I know that we can find evidence for the contrary. You can look at a lot of people that don't seem like they want love at all, or they don't want to seem like they want to spread good at all. But that doesn't mean that's who they truly are. Because I know my own evil. I know my capacity for it. I've seen where I can go in my mind and what I can do with my actions when I'm selfish and when I'm fearful. But I've also seen the other end. And that's the end I choose to entertain. That's the end I know is my true self, the one that wants freedom for all. We can all be free. That's where we're going. That's where we're headed. It's where you can be in every moment. I'm trying to be motivating now. I just want to lay out truths that are so true, but yet could be considered so radical that it just snaps you out of it. Wake the fuck up. Be you. Be what you want to be. For me, okay, so I've thought about a million different things I could do with my life. When I was young, when I was young, my mom wrote my baby books, you know. She recorded things up until I was like in grade 4 or something like that. Just little things I said every year, my friends, what I wanted to be, blah, blah, blah. For the first few years of school, she wrote stuff like I wanted to be an artist. Or I wanted to be a carpenter like my dad. Or there might have been a time where I wanted to be a firefighter. But that didn't last long because I was afraid of fire. And I was afraid of being hurt in any way. So that I moved away from that one pretty quickly. So I wanted to be an artist because I liked to draw from a very young age. I wanted to be a carpenter just because my dad was, and it looked cool to build houses, attracted me to that kind of thing. When I got older, I don't remember much after about what I wanted to be. I mean, like from like 5 years old to like 15. When I was 15, I started playing music, or 16. Around that time, 15 or 16, I started playing music, and then I wanted to be a musician. Also, in grade 12, I really got into poker, and I wanted to be a professional poker player. I got really good at it really quickly when my friends and I started playing together. But then, my friends also got good, and then I stopped progressing. And then they all kind of caught up to me, and it was all like an even playing field after that. And then some guys got really good, whereas I kind of just lost it. But I remember being so good and it being so intuitive to me and being able to read people so well that I thought I was like destined for it. So I wanted to be a professional poker player. I wanted to be a musician. I wanted to be in a band. And I was in a band for many years. And we didn't make a living off it, but we made some money from it. And we got a following. And it was a lot of fun. Some of the funnest years of my life. Well, they didn't work out for many reasons. And being on the other side of it now, I can see it's not what I want to do. Not necessarily that I wouldn't want to do it. I still love playing music, and I'm sure I'd love to play for big crowds across the world, but I don't want it to be my job, because I've seen even just a hint of what it's like. to have that be your job. And in many ways, it ruined the passion for me. I didn't want to drum. I didn't want to write. I didn't want to practice because I felt pressure and I felt anxiety with not being able to achieve what I wanted to achieve, and the fear of not being able to make a living at it. Many different things. But in a world where there's no monetary system, where we just are free to do whatever we want, I'm sure one of the greatest joys I would have is getting together with my best friends who I have a very good musical chemistry with and just creating things that we love. So I wanted to be a musician. And then when the band broke up, I was at a loss for a while. I didn't know what I wanted and began to panic. Depression started to set in. Fear started to set in. Anxiety started to set in. It was all like kind of hitting me because I had like pushed it away for years. And now that I didn't know what I was, or like in many ways I lost an aspect of my identity, so it was all coming at me full force. So then I started thinking, what do I want to do? And, I thought about going back to school, but I was very cynical about the way school worked. I'm not cynical about it now, but I still don't necessarily agree with a lot of the ways school works. Not necessarily that I don't agree with it, but it's just not for me. I know who I am. I know what I respond well to and what I don't respond well to, so I know that in those situations I wouldn't thrive. So some of the things I wanted to learn, I remember really being interested in science. That probably started around 17, 18, 19. I developed a fascination for space and its immensity. And so, I thought about being like an astrophysicist, but that seemed too daunting to me. I thought I could never achieve that. I thought I could never be able to have the discipline to study all the time to the point where I could understand something like that, because I did have trouble studying when I was pretty much from junior high all the way through school. So I can remember thinking, I'd love to go learn something like that. But then I'd imagine myself being there and having to study. And then I picture myself right back in that panic I used to have when I was forced to study for a test and I had very little time. And it wasn't sinking in, and no matter how much I read it, I would get distracted and frustrated, and it would overwhelm me, and I would have to stop, and then I'd end up just failing the test because I couldn't deal with the stress of having to actually study. So that pretty much knocked out anything school-wise. Astrophysics, I was like, nope. Later years, I thought about nutrition, and then even still, I was like, what are the schools going to teach me? Who decides what is taught? Who writes the books? Is it actually based in real science? Like, I questioned all these things, and the answers I found didn't seem to be what I was looking for. I've always been someone who was good at explaining things and understanding emotions and human behavior. So I thought about being a psychologist. My mother used to suggest to me, maybe you could be a psychiatrist, and I considered that. And there's many reasons why I didn't want to do that. I thought about just studying psychology, maybe being a psychology professor, but I'd imagine myself out of school teaching, and I didn't see myself fitting in there either. Nothing really felt right to me, so I was scared for a long time. I was perpetually in fear, because in the back of my mind every day was, you don't know what you're going to do. You don't know who you're going to be. You don't know how you're going to make a living. You don't have a clue. So I got different jobs, job after job, just making a living, hanging out with my friends, doing the things I normally do. Trying to find happiness in different ways rather than career. I can remember telling myself when I was about 23, that if I don't have something figured out by 25, then I'll go back to school. I don't know what I'm going to learn. I figured at that time it would probably be something scientific. So I remember saying that at about 23, that I would figure something out by 25. I never actually, I don't know if I ever actually thought it would happen.